The road to WrestleMania 42 just hit another speed bump. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Cinema. I am Money Mike, and boy oh boy, anyone else getting flashbacks to WrestleMania 32? WrestleMania 32 had so many injuries happen in the build-up. So many matches had to be rewritten for that show because of the injuries that piled up, the amount of stars that ended up not being able to compete on that show. And it really does feel like that for WrestleMania 42 because now, after we lost Seth Rollins, it does now seem we're potentially losing Bron Breakker, and that's not good. Obviously, when you look at the current storyline, Monday Night Raw, the Masked Man made his return once again, hit a stop to Austin Theory, allowing LA Knight to win in advance to the Elimination Chamber PLE for a title shot against Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. But that does beg the question, if this masked man is supposedly Seth Rollins, which again, we always talk about, oh, who is this masked man? It doesn't matter who the masked man is at the time of the attacks. It's just who it's the point of, can Seth Rollins be ready and cleared by the time the reveal comes that he is the masked man, right? So that's the whole thing. And you have to wonder, we heard the timeline for Seth Rollins' injury. Was it one of those things where it wasn't as bad as WWE thought it was going to be, so that maybe they decided to change Bron Breakker's plans for WrestleMania, being around that he would have a match with Seth Rollins instead of potentially facing off against CM Punk? Because in the event that the WWE was rushing Seth Rollins back potentially to have this match against Breakker, my question here is, depending on the seriousness of the injury, there's like so many things going about. 12 weeks, 6 months. WWE officials are saying they hope he's back in time for WrestleMania. I mean, again, I don't know if they're going to rush him back or try to rush him back so he could compete at WrestleMania or whatever. But again, that does put a lot in jeopardy for not only WrestleMania, but the vision as a whole. Because obviously, this whole thing started last year, WrestleMania, the Raw after WrestleMania, Las Vegas, when Bron Breakker was revealed to be aligned with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. We then later got the reveal of Bronson Reed. And then additionally, then they ran the whole Seth Rollins fake injury angle for WWE Unreal. And then Seth actually got hurt. They added Logan Paul. Now Bron Breakker, the guy who the vision was made for, is now injured. So it seems like the vision is simply cursed. It's a lot like the Judgment Day, where it did seem like with the Judgment Day, the plans were in place to go ahead and do the breakup. You watch WWE Unreal Season 2, you see the plans for SummerSlam included Dirty Dominic Mysterio against Finn Balor as the Demon. But because Liv Morgan got injured, I think that pushed everything off. And so the WWE just kind of held everything off. So it seems like similar to the Judgment Day, every time they seemingly have some kind of plan with them, something happens that derails that injury. And now I have to ask, if Seth Rollins is healthy, That's the whole thing, right? If Breakker is out, he cannot compete at WrestleMania. The next question here is, if you are trying to bring Seth Rollins back to have a match against Bron Breakker, what do you do with Seth Rollins? That's the question. Because obviously 12 weeks would be probably around Backlash Tampa. So you could easily have a match there, Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker at Backlash Tampa. That's an easy one. But if it's 6 months, we're looking at SummerSlam, around SummerSlam. So now you have to think, if the WWE was going to just hold off on Braun, let him win the King of the Ring, and then crown him at SummerSlam, now that's even in jeopardy. So what do you do with Seth Rollins, right? Because obviously, he faced Logan Paul at WrestleMania 39, so I kind of don't want to see that match again. But what about Bronson Reed? We know the history between Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. That was part of why Seth Rollins brought Bronson Reed into the vision, because he knew having Bronson Reed by his side was better than having Bronson Reed going against him. Those six tsunamis from the top rope, I think you can learn you want to be buddies with Bronson Reed. But could that be the WrestleMania match? It was an easy setup for Seth versus Breakker. Now, would you have had Breakker win the match? Probably, because you want to put Breakker over, especially if the plan was to get him to win the King of the Ring, crown him at SummerSlam. You definitely want him to beat Seth Rollins. And the story was there with Seth bringing in Breakker into the vision, being the first guy recruited. But then Bronson Reed, we know the history between Seth and Bronson. This could be the WrestleMania match if Breakker is not available. Because if Breakker is out for a while, I think you would have to pivot to Seth versus Bronson, because that at least still keeps it within the Vision storyline, the context of Seth looking for revenge. But then there's the other option, and hear me out. This is far-fetched here, but let's run it back. And I'm talking the triple threat match from last year. Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, but for the World Heavyweight Championship. And here's the thing about this. It doesn't matter who comes out with the title, because you could still have Bron Breakker go after whoever wins that match if you add Seth Rollins to this match. Hell, you could still have the Vision get involved in this match and have Seth and cost Seth the match, so that Seth maybe goes and faces Bronson Reed at Backlash or something like that. But this is an intriguing option here. Seth Rollins vacated the World Heavyweight title. He never lost it, which means he has every right to be in that world title match as much as Roman Reigns does for winning the Royal Rumble. So, I don't know. What do you do if you're WWE? Because obviously the plan here would be Seth. I think the easy plan would be Seth versus Bronson. Seth beats Bronson Reed. He takes out the Vision one by one until he gets to Bron Breakker whenever Breakker is fully healthy. But adding him to the CM Punk Roman Reigns match, I don't think this would be an option. I do think the WWE does want to keep this a one-on-one match. I'm just throwing this out here because Seth Rollins, again, he never lost the world title. So if he is healthy, imagine contract signing. Seth Rollins comes out and says, I never lost this title. I won in this match. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I kind of want to mind it. I mean, it would be a great way to run it back from the triple threat match from last year. You integrate Rollins into WrestleMania. And again, you can still have the Vision get involved, take out Rollins. That way you can still kind of have the match settled between Punk and Roman. But again, it's just an idea. I mean, outside of that, there's no place for Rollins to be on the card if Breakker ends up being injured. So let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you do if you're WWE in this scenario? Because if Breakker is injured, he can't compete in WrestleMania. Do you pivot to Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed? Or do you want to throw him into the World Heavyweight Championship match? I don't know. I mean, there's some intriguing options there. Or do you just hold off on Rollins until after WrestleMania? Because that's the other option too. So let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think this means for WrestleMania? Is the Vision just simply cursed? And go ahead, help me out here. Hit that like and subscribe button, as I do produce weekly wrestling content here on this channel. I've been your host, Money Mike, and you've been watching Ringside Cinema.